All right. I hope you brought your thinking cap. You know, sometimes you got to put on your thinking cap if you're going to learn anything about the guitar. You know, thinking cap and some coffee. So, the other day I was talking about the monkey in the middle. I don't know. So what we should talk about now is everything below the monkey. What's going on below the monkey? Okay. So if I have an E note and I got an A note here, so that distance is 1, 2.5 steps. Now, if I play a low E string, so I have a root, you can hear something that sounds major, and the shape of that major thing is a whole step, half step. And if I reverse it, right, if I go up a whole and up a whole and up a half, and I reverse it, it becomes half, whole coming down. So what if I did half, whole going up? Oh, that's different. So that's something called a Phrygian tetrachord. So a tetrachord has 4 notes, which is why the Greeks called it a tetrachord. Tetra is 4, right? So if I have 1, 2, 3, 4 notes and it goes whole, half, that sounds major. If it goes whole, half, whole, it sounds minor. If I go half, whole, it's called Phrygian. And if I go half, step and a half, it's called harmonic. Those are basically the 4 ways to make tonal sounds inside of this distance from E to A, which is called a perfect fourth. Okay? Now, if we go above the monkey, we get a B and we get an E up here. And the same thing is going on there. So we have the lower tetrachords and the upper tetrachords. So I could have whole, half if I want major sound, or I can have whole, half, whole if I want a minor sound. I can have a half and a hole in a hole if I want a more minor, kind of part way to diminished sound. And I can have a half, step and a half if I want to move. I don't know, it's kind of an exotic, almost an augmented sounding thing, but not really, because that's chord sounds, and we'll get to that later. But these are the tonal devices that we have to create scales. And I'll demonstrate that now. If I have an E and I use 2 major tetrachords, so I go whole step, half step, notice I get to the first perfect fourth, and I skip the monkey, and I go to the 5th. From the 5th, I get a whole step and a half step. 2 major things. Creates a major thing. Dare I say, even a major 7 chord if you pluck the chord out of it, right? Now, if I go major and I skip the monkey and I jump to 5 and I do a minor tetrachord, so instead of whole, half, I do whole, half, whole. Now I've just created a major minor instead of a major like I did earlier, and that is actually the sound of the dominant 7th chord scale. If I do minor, I just created a minor 7 chord sound. And if I could mix these up in a variety of ways. I'm not going to do all of them, but you can see that you can mix and match these upper and lower tetrachords to create a whole bunch of different scalar and harmonic effects. So I think it behooves us to spend a little bit of time working that out, okay? And I will talk about this some more later, because you could do this on, it's nice because I got this low E string, right? and I've got an E on the top. So I can look at it in reference to E being the root note, or 1. Right? But if I use my A as a bass note, right, now E becomes 5. So the upper half of the A major scale is actually the lower half of the scale on the first string now, right? Or I could look at it from A. But the same things apply, right? If I'm in the key of A and I want a major sounds, I got to go whole half from E, skip the monkey, and go whole half again, and I've got A major inverted in a sense, right? So you got to put on your thinking cap and spin your propeller so you figure that stuff out, right? But your ear tells you when it's right anyway. Right? Or so scales the long way on the length of the string, right? And I got onto this years ago because I was listening to Jimi Hendrix go, right? So he's going from the bottom to the top of the neck in one swoop, and then it's somewhere in his solo, he's playing up and down the length of the string, you know, as a young person trying to figure out the guitar. I went, oh, look at that, he's staying on one string and wrangling around on that string. So it was interesting, and then I started thinking about things long ways on the guitar neck instead of always vertical. There's a whole bunch of information vertically on this thing, but there's a whole bunch of things horizontally on the string as well. So think about that, and I'll be back.